Hi friends, I'm Joe Stoebenau. Welcome to my channel, Joe Stoe Guitar. So today we're going to do your first guitar lesson. So grab your guitar and we'll get started. So today what I'd like to do in your first guitar lesson is we'll briefly talk about the parts of the guitar, and then we're going to learn to play your first chord. So the parts of the guitar are, you have this big part down here, this is called the body. You have this part here, which is called the neck, and this part here on the top is called the head, or the headstock. Now the body has a few other parts, and this part here that faces outward is called the top. You've got the sides, and you've got the back. Now the neck, you've got the back of the neck here, you can see that. That's the rounded part. And then you have the flat part of the neck on the top, and that's called the fingerboard. Up here on top of the head, we have tuners, or sometimes people call them tuning machines. And they enable you to tune the strings, which run all the way down the guitar, down to this piece here. And this is called the bridge. So it's pretty simple. Now there's a couple other things here. So on the neck, remember we talked about the fingerboard being on the flat part on the top, and that's where you're going to put your hand. Your fingers are going to touch it. But we have all these little metal pieces going across the fingerboard, and those are called frets. So they enable the fret enables us to be able to play different notes on the guitar. But now when it comes to actually playing the guitar, when we're going to use the word fret a lot, and when we talk about putting your finger at a certain place of the guitar, we're going to say either the first fret or the second fret, which would be here, the third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret, and so on up the guitar. But if you notice, there's all this space in between the metal pieces, and that's what we're going to talk about as being our fret. So it's all this real estate here, the wood there. So if you're going to put your finger at the first fret, it's going to be somewhere in this space here. Second fret, your finger will be in this space here between the two metal frets. Okay? It'll make a little more sense as we get going on. And then one last piece here is you have this white plastic piece, and it's called the nut. All right. Well, so now that's the parts of the guitar, major parts of the guitar. There's some others. Electric guitars, if you have an electric guitar, and that's fine. It doesn't matter for these videos if you use an electric guitar or an acoustic guitar. The electric might have a few more parts, and we'll talk about that down the road. So let's get started playing our first chord, and it's going to be the E minor chord. And it's going to look and sound something like this. So the E minor chord, you can hear it sounds kind of a sad sounding chord, but it's also one of the easiest chords to play on the guitar. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in and we'll get started. Okay, so playing our E minor chord, we're going to start first by giving our fingers numbers. And so we're going to start with our first finger, which is our pointing finger, the index finger. That's going to be finger number 1. Your middle finger is going to be finger number 2. Your ring finger is going to be finger number 3. And your small finger or pinky is finger number 4. And then one more thing that we're going to give numbers to are the strings. And notice we have 6 strings on the guitar, the thinnest string being toward the floor, and the thickest string is up toward the ceiling. So the thinnest string we're going to number, and we're going to call that number 1, the first string. The next string up toward the ceiling we're going to call the second string, then the third string, fourth string, fifth string, and finally the sixth string, which is the thickest string and the one that's toward the ceiling. Okay, now the strings do have names, and I'm going to talk about them in another video, the names of the strings. But for right now, let's just call it the strings by number. So we had first string, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Okay, so that's about all the math we need to do for today. So we're going to take our second finger, which is your middle finger, and we're going to place that on the fifth string at the second fret, and it's going to look just like this. So remember, the thicker strings and the higher number strings are toward the ceiling. So the fifth string is the second one down from the top of the neck. Okay, you can put your second finger and in the space here in the second fret. Now you don't want your finger to be on top of the metal piece. Don't want to be on top of the metal. You want to be in the second fret, just inside, so you have all this real estate here that you can move your finger. So I suggest you have it toward the end, so that way you have room for your next finger. Okay. So then we're going to take our ring finger, which is finger number 3, and we're going to place it on the fourth string, also at the second fret. Can you see that? So it's going to go on the fourth string at the second fret, and that's all you need to do. So that is the shape or how you play an E minor chord. Now the other strings, we're just going to let them ring out loud and clear. So we call that an open string if we don't put our fingers on it. And we're just going to you're going to strum with your pick down toward the floor. And make sure you're pushing down hard enough so that you don't get any dead notes. Now, one of the things you can do to check for that is pick each string by itself. Now that all sounded pretty good, but what happens if you get in something like this? I would call that a dead note because, well, it doesn't sound clear. So generally what's happening there is you're not pushing down hard enough. On an acoustic guitar, it takes a little bit of pressure to push down those strings to get a good sounding chord. And you'll get used to it over time. If your fingers start to hurt, just take a couple minutes off, take a little break, and then come back to it and remake your chord. And you can do that and practice that way. It'll get easier over time as you go on. So we're just simply check for our dead notes. If you hear a dead note, maybe just try to push down a little harder. Now if your third string is giving you a dead note, well, there's no finger on the third string, but if it still sounds like it's a dead note, chances are your third finger is laying over top of that third string. So you need to just get a little bit more up on your fingertips. Now that brings up a good point. Notice that my thumb, it's not hanging over, and it's also not down here like this or doing anything weird like that. My thumb is right on top of the top third of the neck, which would be right in this area. It's pretty much right between my first and second finger. It can also be, or where your second finger is, or even where your third finger is, depending on what's comfortable for you. But you don't want it to be like anything like that, because that's hard to get any clamping force with your hand. So if your thumb is just on that top third of the neck, and it's going to give you good strength to be able to clamp your hand against the to clamp the strings down against the fingerboard, okay? So that is an E minor chord. Okay, so that's how you play the E minor chord. Now one of the things you can do is take your pick and you can strum the chord, just strum it nice and easy, being sure to get all 6 strings and strumming all 6 strings down toward the floor. And just go nice and easy. Don't try to get too crazy with it. And because what you want to do is concentrate on your finger position and making sure that you don't have any dead notes. Now, a good way to practice this would be to take your hand off the guitar and come back and remake that chord. Make sure you don't have any dead notes. Take your hand off, come back to the chord, to the guitar, and do that over and over a number of times, because what you're building is muscle memory. And so that way your fingers will always go to that position when you want it. You won't have to think about it so much. And you'll just get both fingers going right to where they want to at the same time. Okay, so that's the E minor chord. So we discussed a few things today. We talked about the parts of the guitar, major parts of the guitar, as well as learning your first chord and get a nice strum with that chord. And on the next video, we're going to look at another couple of easy chords for you to play. All right, so I'll see you on the next video. And if you liked what you saw, please hit the like button. Leave a comment down in the comment section. Let me know what songs that you want to learn to play, what kind of things are giving you problems playing the guitar, and maybe we can work on it together. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.